I'm here at Ford's Dearborn Development Center with an F-150 Lightning. Today we're going to talk about charging the F-150 Lightning. We're going to go over the different ways you can charge a Lightning. We're also going to talk about Ford's intelligent backup power, where you can power your house with one of these guys for up to 3 days, even longer if you're smart with how you use your power at home. We're going to talk about that a little later. But first, click the like button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge.
Okay, so first up, I'm going to talk about the different levels of charging for electric vehicles in general, not specifically F-150 Lightning. Now, I'm going to assume that most F-150 Lightning owners are new to electric mobility, so they're really starting at ground zero with charging. If you're a sophisticated electric vehicle aficionado, you might want to jump to the next segment of this video. Down in the description of the video, I have timestamps to allow people to jump around and go to what section of the video they want. So right now we're just going to talk about general EV charging and the different types. There's 3 levels of charging. Level 1 is regular household 120 volt charging. Now you can charge any electric vehicle from a simple household outlet. The problem is it takes a long time because not a lot of energy is delivered through a standard household outlet. Most electric vehicles will get somewhere between 2 miles of range and 5 miles of range per hour when they're charging on level 1. And that depends on how efficient the vehicle is. Now, the F-150 Lightning is a big, heavy vehicle. It's a big truck. So it's not going to be as efficient as a tiny little electric vehicle like, say, a BMW i3. I mean, it's the same with gas. Big pickup trucks don't get the same gas mileage as tiny little hatchbacks do. So the F-150 Lightning's on the lower end of how fast it will charge on level 1. You're only going to get about 2 to 3 miles of range per hour while charging from a standard household outlet. Now, when you think about it, the extended range battery pack has a 300-mile range. Well, that's Ford's estimate at this point. So if you only get 2 to 3 miles of range replenished per hour, you're talking more than 100 hours to fully recharge a dead battery. But the thing is, most people are never going to plug in at a dead battery. Well, not often at least. You fully charge overnight and you leave in the morning. If you drive 40 or 50 miles during the day, you only need to replenish those 40 or 50 miles. And some people don't actually even recharge every day. They drive the vehicle a few days and then they plug it in and recharge. But if you were stuck charging on level 1, you'd want to plug it in every day or every opportunity you could because it charges so slowly. So for that reason, most F-150 Lightning owners are not going to charge on level 1, but you can in a pinch if you need to add some miles. Most people who are going to elect for daily charging would be on level 2 charging, and that's AC charging at home or on the road on a 240 volt source. Well, it could be from anywhere between 208 volts to 240 volts. And what that does is it dramatically increases the speed of which the vehicle charges. Now, on a level 2 charging source, you can charge anywhere from 16 amps up to 80 amps. So there's no real standard on level 2 charging replenishes X amount of miles per hour. It depends on what equipment you're using, which we're going to get into later. Ford has a variety of level 2 charging options for F-150 Lightning owners. And then the third type of charging is DC fast charging. Now that's direct current. Charging on level 1 and level 2 is alternating current. That's the type of electricity that you have in your household. Direct current is DC fast charging is what you would do on these high-speed DC fast chargers that are installed in the public. You wouldn't have a DC fast charger at your house. These are like the charging stations you see from Electrify America, ChargePoint, EVgo. Tesla has their own branded network of DC fast chargers. They call them superchargers. So those are DC fast chargers and they charge electric vehicles really fast. We're going to get into how fast the F-150 Lightning charges on a DC fast charger in a little bit. So I just wanted to make it clear there's 3 levels of charging. You've got level 1 charging, which is 120 volt household electric. Level 2 charging, that's 240 volt charging. Level 3 is DC fast charging. Actually, people call it level 3. That's not the technical term, but a lot of people call it level 3. So if somebody refers to it as level 3, they really mean DC fast charging. And that's really high speed charging that you're going to do in public. Okay, so next up we're going to get into the specifics of how the F-150 Lightning charges and the equipment that you'll use to charge your F-150 Lightning. But first I just want to qualify that this is North American specific content. Over in Europe and different parts of the world, there's different electric supply. They also have different types of outlets, and even the connectors used to charge the electric vehicles are different. So while it's similar, this is really specifically for North American customers because if the Lightning is to be exported charging, it's going to be a little different depending on where you are. So first we're going to take a look at the standard charging equipment that comes with every F-150 Lightning. It's Ford's mobile connector. It's actually the same mobile unit that comes with the Mustang Mach-E. That's how I was able to source one. My local Ford dealer, Maple Crest Ford in Mendham, actually loaned me one of these for today, and I thanked them for that. They're actually the dealership that I have my F-150 Lightning reserved at, and they promised to sell at MSRP, which very few dealers are doing. So if you live in northern New Jersey and you want to get a Lightning, I recommend you checking out Maple Crest Ford because, hey, they're not marking them up like many dealers are. Okay, so let's take a look at this mobile connector. Okay, you'll notice there's two adapters with the mobile connector. This is the main body of the unit. This is a cradle that they give you to mount it on the wall, and it has the J1772 connector. This is the connector that all electric vehicles in North America use, except for Tesla vehicles. But Tesla provides their customers with an adapter that fits on top of the J1772 so their cars can charge on a J1772 charging station. So this mobile unit here could charge a Tesla if it needed to. But when you're charging any other vehicle but Tesla, you don't need any type of adapter. This just plugs right into the port on every other electric vehicle, including the F-150 Lightning that's sold in North America. So let's take a look at the unit. One thing you'll notice is that it has a opening on the top here. That's where you fit the adapters. Now, the good thing about this unit is it's a dual voltage charging station. This is a very good unit. All electric vehicles come with a portable charging equipment, but some manufacturers give you better equipment than others. Ford actually provides really good standard charging equipment. And the fact that it's a 32 amp unit, we're going to get into that a little bit later. It's actually 30 amps, but it's marketed as 32. It's a 30 amp unit, and it can charge on level 1 or level 2. When it charges on level 1, this is the regular household plug here. You can see you plug this into the top and snap it in. It's actually really tight. When you get these, don't be afraid to really push it in. And when you pull it out, you got to really yank it. So you can use this mobile connector to charge on a regular household outlet. When you do that, as I said earlier, it's going to charge very slowly. You're only going to get a little more than 1 kilowatt delivered to the vehicle. I actually plugged this into my Tesla Model 3 because the Model 3 gives you on the display screen, shows you how much energy is making it into the battery, and it showed it was getting about 1 kilowatt. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the F-150 Lightning has a big battery. The standard range battery is 98 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, and the extended range battery is 131 kilowatt hours. So you can think about that if you're getting about 1 kilowatt hour of energy. 1 kilowatt, you're getting about 1 kilowatt every hour. You can do the math. It's pretty simple. It takes a long time to charge, but you can use it in a pinch. But then what is really useful is that it has this other adapter, and this is for level 2 charging, and it has a NEMA 1450 plug on it. Now, when you plug this in, you need to plug this into a NEMA 1450 outlet, like some of these outlets I have here behind me on the wall for these other charging stations. Now, on level 2, with the supplied charger, the F-150 Lightning will receive about 7 kilowatts. So it's 7 times as fast as charging on level 1. Depending on the size of the battery, you can do the math on how long it will take. We'll take a quick look at that right now and see how long the mobile connector will take to charge both the standard battery pack and extended range battery pack of the F-150 Lightning. So Ford put out this nice chart to explain how long the F-150 Lightning takes to charge on the various charging options you have. We haven't had the opportunity to independently verify it, so we're going on what Ford tells us at this point. If you notice, the first part of the chart is the Ford mobile charger, which we're talking about now. They don't give you any estimated charging time when you're using the 120 volt adapter, I think because it takes so long, they're afraid that it'll scare people off. But as I explained earlier, you get about 1 kilowatt while charging it. So you could do the math. The standard range battery pack is 98 kilowatt hour. The extended range battery pack is 131 kilowatt hour. Depending on what your state of charge is, it's going to take you quite some time to charge it, but you can use it in a pinch. Let's talk about it now when using it with the 240 volt adapter, as Ford gives us the time here. You'll notice here the standard range battery pack, it shows that it takes 14 hours to charge. Now, note up top, it shows estimated charge time 15% to 100%. This isn't 0 to 100%, so it's only to fill 85% of the battery pack. And Ford is telling us it'll take 14 hours to do that. Now, the standard range battery pack has a driving range of 230 miles. So if you take 85% of that, that's 195 miles. So if it takes 14 hours to charge 195 miles of range, that's adding about 14 miles of range per hour. I like to talk in miles per hour of charging. If you do the math with the extended range battery pack, which Ford is telling us it takes 19 hours, it's about the same, maybe a little bit slower, but right around 14 miles of range per hour. So figure on, if you're using the Ford mobile charger and you're plugging into the NEMA 1450 outlet, you're going to get somewhere around 14 miles of range for every hour you're charging. Now, one last thing I want to add about this mobile charger, I alluded earlier to a little bit of a controversy on whether it's a 32 or a 30 amp unit. You'll notice Ford has it listed here as a 32 amp unit. And if you look at the back of the unit, it also says 32 amps. However, there are some areas where Ford explains it as a 30 amp charger. So I called them out on this and asked them to explain it to me. What happened was when they got the unit certified by the SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, they only certified it as a 30.5 amp charger. They said it didn't put out the 32 amps that Ford promised it would. So you really can only bank on 30 amps. And if you take a look at my video where I was charging my Model 3 with it plugged into the NEMA 1450 outlet, the Model 3 was saying it was delivering 30 amps. So I think the SAE is correct. This unit, although it says it's a 32 amp unit, really only delivers 30 amps to the electric vehicle. But even with delivering just 30 amps, you're getting 14 miles of range per hour. And figured most people come home 5 or 6 o'clock at night and they don't leave for work the next morning till 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Your vehicle could be charging anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day. And that's going to be good enough to add back 140 to 200 miles of range every day. Now, not a lot of people drive 150 to 200 miles a day. So the Ford mobile charger is probably enough for many Ford F-150 Lightning owners. That's probably all they need to charge. Now, it's not going to work for everybody, but many people will find that the Ford mobile charger is all they need for daily charging. So as you can see, the supplied mobile connector actually does a pretty good job when it's being used with the NEMA 1450 outlet and charging on level 2. Many F-150 Lightning owners will find that this is all they need to charge the truck. Now, if you use the vehicle heavily and you drive hundreds of miles a day, you probably need a little bit faster charging. But for the average driver, let's say if you drive less than 100 miles every day, this is all you need. All you have to do is install a NEMA 1450 outlet, shouldn't be more than a couple $100, and then plug this thing in. Now, if you're going to use it all the time, I recommend using this cradle. The cradle attaches to the wall like this. There's just 2 screws. You always want to find a stud and have it mounted nice and strong on the wall. And then it snaps onto the back of the unit. Watch, I'll struggle doing it now. There you go. And so the unit just mounts on the wall with that cradle. Now you'll want to install your NEMA 1450 outlet above it, looks like about 10 inches above it. And you also, when you have your electrician install the NEMA 1450 outlet, and I always recommend having a qualified licensed electrician install any electric vehicle charging equipment, outlets, or hardwiring, you'll notice here, this is the ground pin on the NEMA 1450. You want to tell your electrician to install the outlet ground up. If you don't give him that direction, he might mount it ground down, and now all of a sudden you're looking like this on the wall, and it's just, I mean, it would work, but you probably want your installation like this with that plugged into the outlet and this thing mounted to the wall as so. Now the Ford mobile charger will work for some Lightning owners, particularly those with the standard range battery pack. It's not going to work for all Lightning owners, and Ford knows this, so they have other charging options. As a matter of fact, as standard equipment with the extended range battery pack, every Lightning that comes with the extended range battery pack gets Ford's mobile charger, but they also get the Ford Charge Station Pro, which is an 80 amp charging station. Now, this is going to charge the car significantly faster because it can deliver 80 amps to the vehicle. However, one thing I need to make sure everybody understands, you need to install this on a dedicated 100 amp circuit. Now, many homes have a 100 amp service for the entire house. So check with your electrician, check what your available service is. A lot of people that want to install the 80 amp Ford Home Pro charging station are going to have a service upgrade at their house. And that's going to cost many thousands of dollars. So just be cognizant of the fact that very few houses just have a spare 100 amps extra that they could run a 100 amp circuit to their garage. But for those that can, or for those that want to go through the expense of having a service upgrade, it's going to significantly decrease the time that it takes to charge your Lightning. All the Lightnings with the extended range battery pack have dual onboard chargers. They have two 40 amp chargers to equal 80 amps. That allows the vehicle to charge at up to 19.2 kilowatt. Now, you don't get all 19.2 kilowatt. I was able to look at Ford's technical specifications for their onboard chargers. And while the onboard charger can accept the 19.2 kilowatts, the output is down to 17.6. There's always charging losses. The onboard charger inside of the electric vehicle converts the electricity from AC, that it receives it as from your house, to DC, which is the way electricity is stored in the battery pack. When you do this conversion, there's always charging losses. So you don't get the full 19.2 kilowatts into your battery that the charging station is delivering to the vehicle. It's part of the reasons why, if you were to do the math and see Ford's estimated charging times, it doesn't add up. The vehicle takes longer to charge than what it would if you just said, oh, 19.2 kilowatt by 6 hours. That should give me more than enough time to charge the fully charge an extended range battery pack. Yet it takes longer because there's charging losses in the onboard charger. And also, charging isn't linear with electric vehicles. You might get the full power up until 90, 92%. But as the state of charge increases, the vehicle ramps down the amount of power it accepts. So the last hour of charging, it might only average 8 kilowatts. So it takes an extra hour or so to top off the battery pack. That happens with all electric vehicles. But the faster the vehicle can charge, say with the Lightning can accept 19.2 kilowatts, you're going to see a much bigger difference in how it slows down, as opposed to a vehicle that, say, could only accept 6.6 kilowatts. Once it gets up over 90%, maybe it drops down to 5 kilowatts. It's not that big of a difference. But with the Ford Lightning, you might go from accepting 17.6 kilowatts all the way down to like 7 or 8 kilowatts for the last hour of charging. And that's why you can't really just do the math and say, oh, it takes in this amount of kilowatts and over this amount of hours, it should deliver that much to the vehicle. Charging isn't linear, and there's charging losses. So just want to make sure you understand that. So now let's take a quick look at how long Ford says it'll take to charge the Lightning with both standard and extended range battery pack with the Ford Charge Station Pro. So on the Ford Charge Station Pro charging station, the standard range battery tech is going to take about 10 hours to go from 15% to 100%. Now that's faster than the Ford mobile charger, but not that much faster. And that's because the standard range battery pack doesn't come with the dual onboard chargers. It only has a single 48 amp onboard charger, so it really can't take advantage of the full power Ford's Charge Station Pro can deliver. But still, 10 hours is pretty fast, and if you do the math, that adds up to about 20 miles of range added per hour, a pretty significant jump from the Ford mobile charger that was about 14 miles of range per hour. However, if you take a look at the extended range battery pack, here's where the Ford Charge Station Pro really shines. Since the extended range battery pack F-150 Lightning has the dual onboard chargers, it can accept the full 80 amps the Charge Station Pro can deliver. And it charges the extended range battery pack Ford F-150 Lightning in only 8 hours from 15% to 100%. Now, you might say, well, it's only 2 hours faster than the standard range battery pack. Yeah, but the extended range battery pack is 33% larger than the standard range battery pack. So you get 33% more energy and it shaves 2 whole hours off the charging. That's really fast. That adds up to about 32 miles of range per hour when you're using the Ford Charge Station Pro charger and charging an extended range battery pack F-150 Lightning. Before we jump onto the next way to charge the Lightning, just want to point out one thing about the Ford Charge Station Pro. You'll notice the connector on it is different than the connector on Ford mobile charger. That's because the Ford Charge Station Pro utilizes the CCS connector, not the J1772. Now, it doesn't need that to charge the Lightning because it's only using the pins in the J1772, which is on the top of the connector, to charge the vehicle. But the reason why it has a CCS connector is for Ford's intelligent backup power. The Ford Charge Station Pro is required if you want to use your Lightning to power your house in the case of a power outage. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but that's why it has the CCS connector, because it has the 2 DC pins below the J1772 pins. That's because those pins are utilized when the vehicle is providing energy to the house, not when the house is charging the Lightning, but when the vehicle is backfeeding the house and powering your house in the case of a power outage. The Ford Charge Station Pro is required if you want to be able to power your house. You don't have to set that up because additional equipment is needed, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But that's why it has a different connector. That's not for charging the car. You don't utilize those DC pins when you're charging the Lightning. It's only for when the Lightning is powering your house. And finally, the last option that Ford offers for home charging equipment is the Ford Connected Charging Station. They sell it for $799, although that could vary slightly from dealership to dealership. Most of them I've seen sell it for $799. So let's say you get the Lightning with the standard range battery pack and you don't want to use the mobile charger for your daily charging. You just want to keep that in the truck in case of emergency. You can plug it in somewhere, or you just want to charge a little bit faster. Ford's Connected Charge Station is a 48 amp charging station that also needs to be directly hardwired to your house. You can't plug it in. It needs a 60 amp dedicated circuit, and it'll charge the vehicle a little bit faster than what the mobile charger will. Now, why would you want to get that if you had a extended range battery pack and the Ford already gives you the Ford Charge Station Pro? Well, go back to what I talked about a few minutes ago. What if you just can't install that in your house, or it's going to be too expensive? You don't have a 100 amp circuit available, but you do have 60 amps available in your service panel. You don't want to do a full service upgrade. You say, you know what, I'd prefer to charge at the 19.2 kilowatts that the Ford Charge Station Pro can deliver, but hey, I'm not going to spend another $5,000 to upgrade my whole house. So I'll just get the Ford Connected Charging Station and charge at 48 amps. That's a decent option and a good option for many people. So what you would do is order that from Ford. You could actually buy it with the vehicle and bundle it into your lease payment or your monthly payment on the car. You can go right through your dealership and do that rather than buy it directly. Once you install it in your house, you can charge it up to 48 amps. Well, that's how much power the unit will deliver. As I mentioned before, the onboard charger always has charging losses. And the onboard charger for the standard range battery pack on the Lightning can accept 11.3 kilowatts, but its output power is 10.5 kilowatts. So you're only going to get 10.5 kilowatts into the pack every hour of charging. That's still much better than Ford's mobile charger, which is only going to give you somewhere around 7 kilowatts, maybe a little bit more than 7 kilowatts every hour. So, or 7 kilowatt hour every hour. So you have a good increase in power there, and it's definitely worth it if you can't install Ford's Charge Station Pro and you want to charge faster than Ford's mobile charger. So let's take a look at what Ford says will be the charging times if you use Ford's connected charge station. Okay, so Ford says the Ford connected charge station will take about 10 hours to charge a standard range battery pack from 15% to 100%. And that's a charge rate of about 20 miles of range per hour. Now, the extended range battery pack takes 3 hours longer. And that's the same 20 miles of range per hour. And that's because when charging on the Ford connected charge station, the extended range battery pack with its dual onboard chargers doesn't have an advantage over the standard range battery pack, because the standard range battery pack can already accept the full amount of power that the Ford connected charge station can deliver. So there's no advantage for the extended range battery pack. The battery pack's about 33% bigger, and it takes about 33% longer to charge, 10 hours to 13 hours. And finally, we come to DC fast charging, or as some people call it, level 3. So for DC fast charging, the Lightning can accept up to 150 kilowatt. Now, you heard me talking a lot about 7 kilowatt and 19.2 kilowatt. When you're DC fast charging, the Lightning can accept up to 150 kilowatt. So this is a whole different ball game, and this is what enables long distance travel. If you're traveling hundreds and hundreds of miles, you really don't want to use level 2 charging. You don't want to be stuck for hours waiting. That's when you find DC fast chargers. The problem is there's a limited number of them out there right now, and also the ones that are out there charge at different rates. There's some 50 kilowatt DC fast chargers, some that are 150 kilowatt, and some that are 350 kilowatt. You really want to try to find the ones that are 150 kilowatt or more so that the vehicle will be able to accept its maximum charging power. And how do you find them? Well, in Ford's navigation system, it will route you to DC fast charging stations. But personally, I prefer some of the third-party apps. I use Plug&Charge and ChargeWay. Those two apps are really good to help you find public charging, and they also have all kind of tips on whether the charging station is broken. It also tells you how much the charging station costs. It makes sure that you can use that charging station because there are other charging standards. The CCS combined charging system that the Lightning uses isn't the only charging standard for DC fast charging today. There's a CHAdeMO, which is a plug that some of the Asian manufacturers use, although most of them now are switching over to CCS. That's really becoming the de facto standard. And there's also Tesla superchargers, as I mentioned earlier. So some of these apps really help you make sure that you don't end up at a charging station that you can't use. And they also talk about price, and there's they're crowdsourced, so you get little comments if the charging station is broken. I highly recommend checking out Plug&Charge and ChargeWay, in addition to using your in-vehicle navigation to route you to charging stations. I found that using both of them is really the best policy. So get used to some of those apps. Download them first and check them out. So the Lightning can accept up to 150 kilowatts. So as I mentioned, you want to try to find charging stations that are 150 kilowatt or more. And Ford has set some guidelines with how quickly the vehicle will charge, as it did with level 2 and level 1 charging. So let's take a quick look at how long Ford says it'll take to charge the Lightning when you're at DC fast chargers. Okay, so Ford is using the example of an Electrify America DC fast charging station that can deliver 150 kilowatt. Now, you don't need to use an Electrify America DC fast charge station. You can use a DC fast charge station from any of the networks. However, Electrify America does have the most 150 kilowatt DC fast chargers available today. Now, if you look at the standard range battery pack, Ford says it will take 44 minutes to go from 15% to 80%, not to 100%. They use 15 to 80%, which is 65% of the battery pack. And if you go on the 230 mile estimated range, that's adding about 150 miles of range, which works out to 3.4 miles for every minute of charging. We talk about miles per minute with DC fast charging, not miles per hour like we talk with level 1 and level 2 charging. For the extended range battery pack Lightning, with a 300 mile range, 65% of the battery pack's 195 miles of driving. And the 150 kilowatt DC fast charge station will add that back in 41 minutes. You notice it's faster than it did it for the standard range battery pack, which is smaller. That's because even more so than level 2 charging, with DC fast charging, the charge rate isn't linear. And because the battery pack is bigger on the extended range battery pack, Ford can hold a higher charge rate for longer, and that enables it to actually add more energy in shorter time. So 41 minutes from 15% to 80% charged, and that's a charge rate of 4.75 miles per minute. One last thing I'd like to point out, if you take a look at the fine print on the bottom, Ford says that you'd be able to add 41 miles of range in 10 minutes to the standard range battery pack. Now that's more than the 3.4 miles a minute that we average. That's because if you only plug in for 10 minutes, you'll get a higher average charging rate and you can add 41 miles. With the extended range battery pack, Ford promises 54 miles of range added in about 10 minutes of charging. Before we move on from DC fast charging times, I want to give you an example of why it's so important to find the right DC fast charging station, one that can deliver a full 150 kilowatts. Now, Ford didn't show us on that sheet that they had where they explained the charging, how long it would take to charge the Lightning when you are on a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger. A lot of the DC fast chargers in public today are limited to 50 kilowatts. But on their technical specification sheet, they did give us a line to show us how long it would take. And if you take a look, the standard range battery pack F-150 Lightning will take 91 minutes to charge from 15% to 80%. That's an hour and a half. And if you have the extended range battery pack, it takes 122 minutes, which is 2 hours and 2 minutes to charge from 15% to 80%. So it really demonstrates how important it is to find a 150 kilowatt DC fast charge station. It takes very long to charge the Lightning's very big battery packs. Even the standard range battery pack is really big if you're stuck charging on a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger. When using public charging networks, either to DC fast charge or level 2 charge, you need to join the network. And there's a lot of different networks out there. Electrify America, EVgo, Greenlots, ChargePoint, Blink. There's a ton of different electric vehicle charging networks. But Ford has made it easier for their customers. They created what they call the Ford Charging Network. And what they did was they went out and made deals with all these different charging networks. So that way you don't have to join all those networks. You just use your FordPass app and you can authenticate a charging session on any of the networks that they made deals with. It's very convenient, and it really eliminates the need to go out and create some type of relationship with 10 different charging networks. All you need to do is use the FordPass app and you can charge on the vast majority of public charging networks available today. One last thing I want to point out is the F-150 Lightning also comes with a new technology to electric vehicles called Plug&Charge. What Plug&Charge does is it communicates with the charging station when you plug the vehicle in. So basically all you have to do is plug it in, it authenticates and start charging. You don't even have to pull out your FordPass app and turn on the charging station, which is what you'd have to do without Plug&Charge. You need to be able to say, okay, this is my vehicle and I'd like to charge here, and yes, I'll pay for it. But with Plug&Charge, that all happens automatically. Currently, only the Electrify America network has Plug&Charge enabled across its entire network. But soon it's going to be available on other networks. It's going to make public charging a lot easier. You'll just pull up to the charging station, plug in, and walk away, and you don't have to worry about authenticating it, turning on the charging station, fumbling with a credit card, any of that stuff. The vehicle will communicate with the charging station and automatically start charging your electric vehicle. So one more thing I want to talk about charging the F-150 Lightning, and it's about the equipment you can use. We focused on the equipment that Ford makes here today so far, but I want to make it clear, you don't have to use Ford charging equipment. Any of these chargers on the wall behind me can charge the Lightning just fine because they use the industry standard J1772 connector. I know some of these connectors look a little different, but they all have the same pins and they'll all charge the Lightning just fine. They come in different sizes, different shapes, different cost points, different power levels. So it might behoove you to take a look at some of third-party charging equipment if you're going to buy a charging station for the F-150 Lightning. The last thing I want to talk about is Tesla charging stations. You'll notice on the end here, I have a Tesla wall connector. Tesla uses a proprietary connector. They're the only manufacturer that doesn't use this J1772 connector here in the US. They have their own proprietary Tesla connector. However, you can use this to charge the F-150 Lightning. If you already have a Tesla wall connector installed at your house, maybe you already own a Tesla, now you get an F-150 Lightning, you can use that to charge the F-150 Lightning. Just need to get yourself an adapter like this. This is a Tesla to J1772 adapter. You plug the Tesla connector into this end, and now you've got a J1772 connector on this end. It'll charge the F-150 Lightning just fine. I did a dedicated video here on my channel that talks about how you use these adapters and how you find the right one for your vehicle. It's important that you pair the power that this can deliver to the power that your electric vehicle can accept, because these come in all different power levels, and you don't want to buy one that can't accept the amount of power that the F-150 Lightning will accept, because what you'll have is you'll have the Tesla wall connector delivering more power to your vehicle than this thing can accept, and that's not good. I'm going to put some links in the description of this video to the Tesla to J1772 adapters that I recommend that you can use to charge your F-150 Lightning. Now, Tesla also has a network of destination chargers, which are level 2 charging stations like this wall connector that are available to the public. They're all over America. There's thousands of them. They're at hotels, restaurants, public parking lots. They really have a great network. You can go on Tesla's website, go to their charging map, and you'll see where they are. Tesla has done a fantastic job of putting these all over the country. You can use those charging stations to charge the F-150 Lightning if you have one of these adapters. Most of them are free. They're usually on private property, so you do want to get permission for whoever manages the charging station. Like if it's a hotel, go ask the front desk. If it's a restaurant, you want to ask the restaurant first because they own and manage the stations. Tesla just installs them and gives them to the property owner and says, okay, you set the rules on who can use these. So you always want to ask permission first to make sure that they're okay with you using it. Now, you can't use one of these, unfortunately, for Tesla superchargers. That's Tesla's network of DC fast chargers. However, Tesla has announced, well, Musk has announced on Twitter, that he is going to open up the supercharger network sometime soon for other electric vehicles to use. When they do that, you will be able to charge the F-150 Lightning on Tesla superchargers, which will really probably double the amount of DC fast chargers that are available to F-150 Lightning drivers right now. However, Tesla really hasn't announced all the details for that. We believe they're going to sell an adapter that will allow you to plug in, because this adapter is only good for level 2 charging, 240 volts. It would not be able to handle DC fast charging. It's not rated. None of these are rated to be able to handle that kind of power. So Tesla's probably going to be making an adapter to allow F-150 Lightning and any other electric vehicle owner to use the supercharger network. As I said, we don't have all the details, but hopefully that's coming soon. And when it does, it's really going to be a big boom for electric vehicle owners that don't own Teslas, because Tesla has so many superchargers out there. It'll really be great to be able to use that network with a non-Tesla vehicle. And finally, let's talk a little bit about Ford's intelligent backup power feature. That feature allows the F-150 Lightning to power your home in the case of a power outage or some kind of natural disaster. Really cool feature. It's one of the first electric vehicles that has this vehicle to home, or we call it V2H feature, where you can actually draw energy from your battery pack to power your house. The F-150 Lightning can deliver up to 9.6 kilowatt to the house, which should be enough to completely power most homes. Although during a power outage, you probably want to conserve your energy and not really waste energy because you don't know how long the power is going to be out. You want it to last a long time. Ford estimates that the F-150 Lightning with the extended range battery pack can power a home for about 3 days. But they also note that it could be up to 10 days if you use your power wisely and don't waste energy. Of course, it's going to depend on how big your house is. Do you have electricity as your heat? Do you have electric cooking appliances? Things like that that use a lot more energy might limit the amount of time that the vehicle can actually sustain the house. Hopefully you don't have a power outage for more than a few days, but if you're wise, you can actually drag it out for many days if you don't waste your energy. The intelligent backup power system requires Lightning owners to have the 80 amp Ford Charge Station Pro installed at their house. And then they also have to install a transfer switch. Ford's partnered with Sunrun to provide and do the installation of the transfer switch. A transfer switch is required so you don't backfeed the grid, which would pose a danger to the line workers working to restore the power. It's basically called islanding, where the transfer switch cuts power from your house to the grid. So you're operating like an island at that point. You're not connected to the grid anymore. The transfer switch physically disconnects your house from the grid, and that's required for safety reasons. Now, you have to understand, these transfer switches aren't inexpensive. They cost anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500. Then you have to pay to have them installed. So to have the Ford Intelligent Backup Power, you first have to install the 80 amp Ford Charge Station Pro, and then you have to pay to have a transfer switch installed. So it's not going to be inexpensive. We don't know the cost of this yet. Sunrun hasn't come out with exactly what they're going to charge to install this. And they're also going to bundle solar arrays in this package and have a nice package set up for Ford Lightning owners if they would like that. But just to be clear, you don't need to buy a solar array. There's some forums online right now that say the people that contacted Sunrun were told that they had to buy a solar array with the transfer switch and package it all together. That's not the case. They might be trying to upsell them. You don't need the solar array. I recommend it if you have the financing to do it. I have solar here at my house. It's a fantastic combination, driving on electric and having solar electric at your house. But you don't need to have it in order to have the Ford Intelligent Backup Power working at your house. You just need Ford Charge Station Pro and a transfer switch, and you're good to go. Well, that's it for our everything you need to know about charging the Ford F-150 Lightning video. I know this was a really long video. It's almost 40 minutes long. I promise I'm going to make a shorter version of this. I wanted to be as comprehensive as I could because I know a lot of F-150 Lightning owners are first-time electric vehicle owners, and they're starting at ground zero, so I wanted to try to cover everything. When I get my F-150 Lightning, I'm going to do a condensed version of this. Maybe something like everything you need to know about charging the F-150 Lightning in 15 minutes or less, and cut this down by more than 50%. Well, I know it was long, but I hope you learned something today, and I hope I covered all of your questions about charging the F-150 Lightning. If you like what we're doing here on State of Charge, please subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell, and click that like button so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge.